Hi, it's Abby with the Bead Place, and today I'm going to show you how to make a berry bracelet. You will need the following items: large hole round beads. I'm working with some copper beads. You'll also need a button, and it doesn't matter if you have a button with holes or a button with a shank, just as long as your stringing material or our cord will fit through it. I have some rat tail cording here in a standard size. This is 1 yard of rat tail, and I have it cut into 2 pieces. I have a longer piece that is 2 feet and a shorter piece that is a foot. So this is twice the length as my shorter piece. So our first step is to make sure that all of the holes in our copper beads are clear of anything. So sometimes when they antique the beads, some of the material gets stuck on the inside of the beads, like you can see right here. So we'll just kind of take a few moments before we start the project to just make sure that all of the holes are clear. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is take my longer piece of rat tail and fold it in half. So I'm holding the 2 shorter ends together, and I have a loop on one end. I'm going to hold the loop with my short piece of rat tail, so I've got my separate piece here, and I'm going to hold it right next to the shorter piece. So I'm going to tie these together in an overhand knot. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to make a loop right below my existing loop, and I'm going to pass the loop and the tail end of the short cord through the loop and then pull. Now I'm not going to tighten it all the way until I'm sure that I have the right size knot. So I'm going to just make sure that my button can just barely squeeze through that little loop. So once I check the size, I can tighten the knot. And then before we proceed, we'll just check one more time just to make sure that the button kind of just barely fits through. Okay, so what you can do if it's easier for you is tape down your loop onto your surface. I'm going to hold it so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see, but you can definitely tape it down if you want. So the ends of our cording should be approximately the same length. And we should have 3 ends. So what we're going to do is start a braid, and basically it's just the same way you'd braid hair. You're going to take one outside cord and bring it to the middle, and then bring the other outside cord and bring it to the middle. Bring the opposite outside cord to the middle, and bring the opposite outside cord and bring it to the middle. And you're just going to continue to do that, and you can start to see the braid shape coming. And you want to do this anywhere from between, I would say, 12 to 20 times, just depending on how long you want your bracelet to be. Also, if you notice that you're braiding very tightly, you probably want to braid a couple more passes. You see how down here it's a little bit tighter than up here. So if you're braiding tightly, do a couple more passes in order to get a little bit more length. So I'm just going to braid a couple more times, and then I will show you what we need to do to get started. So I have about 1.5 inches braided, and what I'm going to do is take one of my outside cords, so this is my outside cord right here. I'm going to string on a copper bead to my outside cord, and sometimes it helps if you can kind of multitask by still holding the braid tight and kind of using your other hands or other fingers on your other hand to help you. So what I'm going to do is push the bead all the way up to the top, just like this, and I'm going to pass my outer cord to the center, just like we're continuing on with the braid. But I'm going to be careful that I don't pass the bead over to the center. I'm just going to pass the cord to the center, just like that. So I'm going to hold these two cords right here together, and I'm going to take my other outside cord and I'm going to add another copper bead. And so then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm keeping my copper bead up at the top. I'm taking the cord and passing it to the middle. So this is what we have so far. So now I'm going to hold right underneath these two cords right here, and I'm going to take my other outside cord and add another bead. Bring it up to the top. And then I'm going to take the cord and pass it to the middle, still making sure that the bead stays above the cording. So again, I'm going to hold right here. I'm going to take my other outside cord and thread a bead. Oops. I'm going to bring the bead up to the top, pass my cord to the middle, and then hang on right below those two. So I'm going to take my outside cord on the other side then, string a bead, and bring the bead up to the top. So then bring the cord over to the middle, making sure the bead doesn't drop down. And I'm going to hold right below that bead. I'm holding these two cords. Let me get my fingers out of the way so you can see I'm holding these two outside. And I'm going to take the other one and string a bead. And basically you're just going to continue braiding like this, only we're adding beads before we pass it over. So you want to do this until you run out of beads. These particular beads come in a quantity of 20. Depending on the size of the beads that you use, you can definitely vary it. Just make sure if you're using less beads that you do more braiding and vice versa. So once you get the hang of it, it becomes a lot easier. You can start to use your hands a little bit more fluently. Once you kind of figure out the tension, you can kind of hold it in a couple of your fingers on this hand and use your other fingers to help you thread the beads on. So kind of see how I'm picking it up, and you can get a little bit quicker when you do it that way. So you start to see how the beads are just kind of sitting in between the beads below them, kind of in a crisscross pattern in the middle. So I'm just going to continue on like this, and I will catch up with you whenever I've completed all of the braiding with the beads. So I've just added my last bead. This is what I have so far. I'm going to take that last cord and pass it over to the middle to lock that last bead down. So then what I'm going to do is continue braiding. So I just passed this side cord over to the middle. So now I'm going to take the other outside cord and pass it to the middle. And I'm just going to continue on like that until I have the length needed for my bracelet. So just bring the cords on the outside to the middle and just continue braiding. And you want to have pretty even tension compared to your other side that you started with. And it's totally okay if the lengths are different from how you started to what we're finishing with. That is definitely fine. We're going to be adding a button, and it's kind of a bohemian look anyway, so it doesn't really matter if it's a little bit different. So I have just a few more in order to finish it off. So Just kind of braid until it wraps around your wrist and you're pretty well there, so that your button can fit through your loop. So once you've done that, what you're going to do is kind of hold all 3 cords together, and you're going to string one of the cords through the button. Now, if it's easier, what you can do is put a little clamp right here while you're doing this, or you can even tape it down, whatever works. Just for the video's sake, I'm just going to kind of hold it all together and just do this quickly. Pass through one side and then back through the other if you have a hole with buttons. Otherwise, just string through the shank of the button if you're using one with a shank. And bring the button all the way down to your braids. So it's all the way down, just like that. What I'm going to then do is hold those other 2 cords together just like they're one. And I'm going to tie these into a square knot. So I'm going to do right over left and pull tight, and then left over right and pull tight. So that makes a nice little knot that's going to hide underneath our button. I would then put a little bit of glue right on the knot. For the video's sake, I'm not going to do that. But then after the glue dries, what you can do is trim the ends down. And how we finish this other end is very similar. We're just going to put a drop of glue right on the knot right here, and trim this guy off. And then you've got an awesome finished berry bracelet. Thanks for watching.